back with Patricia Angus, and I'd like
Phil.
to ask you about the article Creed or Code by Ronald Alcott.
Sure.
Because you've introduced yourself several times in the course of our conversations as a former attorney.
Right. I joke that I've been on the wagon for many years this time.
As
Yeah.
a former attorney and thinking about family meetings and family governance,
Sure.
what is the tension between being an attorney, practicing attorney, and doing that kind of work?
Right. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. And I used to joke that I became a consultant because there were fewer jokes about consultants than there were about lawyers. So at least, and now when I go to cocktail parties, the conversation doesn't end immediately when I would say I was a lawyer. So it does help you socially to not say that you're a lawyer, but that's not really why I did it. I think that if you look at the US legal system, we are an adversarial system, and your job as a lawyer is to represent your client as an advocate. And it's different from other systems around the world, and I find that fascinating to compare. But if you're really going to do the best job for the client, you really have to work within our system the way it exists today. And so I found, and many others in the field have found, that in order to do the kind of facilitative work that I was mentioning before, you really have to step outside your role as a lawyer and not be an advocate just for one person. Now, one question that you haven't asked is why family, and why do we even care? And I think most of the sort of wealth and assets today are currently or will be jointly owned or jointly decided upon in our lifetime. It's an incredible difference from where it was, 50 years ago. So it's inevitable that you're going to be dealing with families as opposed to just individuals. People are living longer. People are more communicative with each other with the internet. So I think that it's really the family becomes this entity or this group that you're working with. How do you do that as a lawyer? I think it's difficult because I really do believe in the attorney-client privilege and the adversarial role. And if you start working with more than one person who could be in conflict with each other, not only do you put yourself in a difficult position, you may not be able to serve each of them well. So I think there's a real challenge to stay as a lawyer. I call myself a former, lawyer because I think that the analytical training and the background I had as a practicing lawyer, is really important to the work that I do. It helps me understand, it helps me translate, and it helps me, frankly, work with other lawyers in the field on behalf of clients. But I can, for example, have the kind of conversations that I need to have. So between Charlotte and Waits, I'm going to hear one version from one person, I'm going to hear one version from the other, and they may tell me, don't tell the other person this. I'm used to keeping confidences because I have to as a lawyer, but now it's not in the same way. I can hear both stories and then hopefully, tactfully facilitate a conversation that gets them to the commonality that I hear between them. And if you're really serving your lawyer role well, that's not something that you're attuned to be doing. And so I think it's really a both and.
Thank you.